Hey, Reddit. Throw away for obvious reasons. I 34 meters have been with my wife. 32F for almost 10 years, married for 6. We have one daughter, 5. From the outside, I guess you'd say we look stable. Good jobs, a house in a decent neighborhood. Couple of vacations a year. And those cringy family holiday cards that she insisted on sending out. But here's the thing. I think I've been in love with an idea of her. The person she pretended to be. I say that now, but a few months ago, I wouldn't have dared to think that. I used to defend her when people told me she seemed cold or harsh. I used to tell myself she was just blunt or tired or stressed. Looking back now, I think the signs were there. I just didn't want to see them. The beginning of the unraveling started small. It always does those to it. Around February, she started staying later at work. She's a corporate trainer, so travel isn't unusual. But suddenly, there were late-night prep meetings 3 or 4 times a week. And when she was home, she was off. Not angry, not even distant. Just distracted. Always on her phone. Texting someone. Smiling, sometimes quickly hiding the screen. The vibe changed, but when I asked her if everything was okay, she got annoyed, like I was the one being controlling. She started locking her phone. We never used to do that. If she was in the shower and her phone rang, I'd answer it. No big deal. But now this private, don't touch my stuff. That phrase hit me like a wall. We've been married 6 years. How is your phone private? The sex dried up too. She blamed stress. I blamed myself. Maybe I let myself go a bit. Maybe I wasn't exciting anymore. Maybe I wasn't helping enough with our daughter. It's funny how fast you go from partner to beggar, trying to figure out what you did wrong to make someone stop loving you. But she still kiss me goodbye every morning. She still say, I love you at night. It's that kind of thing that messes with your head. I didn't want to snoop. I really didn't. I've always believed that if you feel the need to spy on your partner, the relationship is already broken. But then came that night. And that's where I'll pick up in part 2. Because what I found completely shattered the version of my life I thought I was living. So that night, it was a Thursday. I remember because I made spaghetti and our daughter was helping me grate cheese. My wife was supposedly at a client dinner and had told me not to wait up. Around 9:30, I went into the laundry room to toss in some towels. That's when I noticed something odd. Her overnight bag was there. She always takes it on business overnights. It was sitting next to the dryer, partially open. I don't know what possessed me, but I peeked inside. Right on top, a silky red lingerie set I'd never seen before. Still folded, still tagged, not even washed. That might sound tame, but here is the thing. She hadn't even worn anything, even close to that in months, maybe years, definitely not for me. And underneath that, a hotel keycard envelope. You know the kind, plain white with the room number scrolled in pen. Room 206. No hotel branding. Number receipt. No explanation. Just that my stomach sank. I stared at that damn envelope like it might bite me. Then I heard our daughter laughing in the next room and snapped out of it. I shoved the bag back where I found it and closed the laundry room door. I couldn't breathe. My heart was hammering in my chest, and this dark, sick feeling bloomed in my gut. I sat on the floor, behind the closed door for a solid 10 minutes, trying to decide what the hell to do. Should I call her, ask her outright, drive to every hotel in town, and ask for room 206? I didn't do any of that. Instead, I waited. She got home a little after midnight, smelling like wine and mint gum. Her hair was done, not curled like usual, straightened, sleek, polished. She looked sexy for someone who was just having dinner with a client. I asked casually how the dinner was. She said fine. Boring. She went to shower. Didn't he even ask about our daughter? When she came out, I kissed her cheek and said, "You forgot your overnight bag." Her face changed just for a split second. She played it off and said, "Oh, I didn't end up staying." Plans changed. That was it. She didn't ask how I knew. Didn't ask if I looked inside. She just brushed it off like it didn't matter, then rolled over and went to sleep. I laid next to her in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, wondering how many other nights she came home like this, fresh from someone else's bed, lying beside me like nothing had happened. Not after that night, I didn't sleep. Not really. I close my eyes and see that key card, that red lingerie, her face when I mentioned the bag. I became obsessed with tiny details. Her tone, her texts, her schedule. I kept second-guessing everything and myself. Maybe it was a business dinner. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe that lingerie was for me eventually. But deep down I knew better. So I did what I swore I never would. It was a Tuesday. She was in the shower, phone left charging on her nightstand. It was face down, but I saw the screen light up when I walked by. Just a preview. Had a great time last night. Face blowing a kiss. No name. Just a number I don't know what snapped inside me. But I picked it up and tried her passcode. First try, our daughter's birthday. Denied. Second try, her own birthday. Denied. Third try, mine unlocked. My hands were shaking so hard, I nearly dropped the phone. I opened her texts and scrolled it. Didn't take long. There he was, Jim. The messages weren't just flirty, they were filthy stuff. She hadn't, he said to me, since before we got married. Pics. Times. Locations. Him calling her my little secret. Her replying, "I needed that tonight." Same time Thursday. And this wasn't he knew. I scrolled up for what felt like forever. Months. She'd been with this guy at least since January. Same nights she claimed to be at dinner or traveling. Wasn't he a coworker? Not a client. Just some trainer at her gym who apparently had more of my wife than I ever did. I couldn't read it all. I physically couldn't. My stomach turned, my hands went numb. And I put the phone back exactly where I found it. She came out of the shower, humming, wrapped in a towel like she had a tea. Just set my whole world on fire that day. Something broke in me like a mirror, cracking slowly but violently. And I hadn't even confronted her yet. That I waited 2 days, not because I was trying to be strategic, but because I genuinely didn't know what the hell to do. Part of me wanted to scream. Part of me wanted to pack her things and toss them into the street. And part of me, the saddest part, still wanted her to explain it away. To lie to me good enough that I could pretend none of it was real. But I couldn't unsee what I saw. So I waited until Friday night. Our daughter was at my sister's for a sleepover. Just us in the house. I made dinner. Yeah, I know how pathetic that sounds now, and waited until she poured her second glass of wine. Then I asked, "So who is Jay?" She blinked. Just blinked. Not a twitch, not even a pause in sipping her wine. Jay, who? I stared at her. Jay. Jim Jay. The one who said he had a great time last night. The one you've been meeting every Thursday in hotel rooms since January. That Jay. That got her. She went pale for a second. Then instantly shifted into defense mode. Like she had a playbook ready. Oh my God. You went through my phone. Are you serious right now? No denial. No, that is not true. Just rage that I looked. You invaded my privacy. Are you actually crazy? That is emotional abuse. That's a phrase she likes to use. Emotional abuse. She knows it stings. She has used it before when I've raised my voice or gotten frustrated. She weaponizes that stuff. I didn't bite. Cut the crap, Kate. You're sleeping with him. She laughed. Laughed a short cold. Dry little bark. It's not like that, he asked. Just someone I talked to. I repeated one of the texts back to her verbatim. The one where she said, "God, I can still taste you." She went quiet. Then she switched gears. Classic deflection. Well, maybe if you paid attention to me once in a while, I wouldn't need to talk to someone else. And there it was. Like it was my fault she was sneaking around, lying and screwing someone behind my back for months. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stared at her and said, "You don't even look sorry." And she shrugged. A fucking shrug. I'm tired of pretending everything is perfect. I felt trapped. You act like a roommate, not a husband. Funny, I felt like a husband. Paying bills, doing bedtime stories, cooking dinner, driving her to the airport. I thought that was love, apparently. That was just being convenient for her. I went to sleep on the couch that night, or tried to. That night was the first time I looked at her and didn't recognize the person I married. I wish I could tell you I'd already hit rock bottom, that I confronted her. She confessed, and we started dealing with the wreckage. But the truth is, Jay was just the surface of it. After that night, things got weird. She acted like nothing happened. Seriously. The next morning she made coffee, asked if I wanted eggs, and even kissed me on the cheek before heading out for Pilates. Like she hadn't detonated our marriage. With a smile and a shrug. I couldn't sit in the silence anymore. I needed answers. Closure. I don't know something. So I did what I never thought I'd become. I started snooping. I bought one of those cheap little burner phones, set up a new Gmail, and synced her iCloud using the password ID known for our daughter's nickname plus her birth year. Within 10 minutes, I was staring at months of messages, locations, photos. Jay was nothing. He was Thursday nights. He was hotels. He was rehearsed lies. But Eric was lunch breaks. Middle of the day motel rooms. Random charges on our joint card, labeled Greenwood Cleaners, which, by the way, isn't a real business. It's just a fake name that certain, no questions asked, motels use for discretion. I found texts that made me feel physically sick. Can't wait to sneak away again. Your hands on my hips last time. Fire, fire, fire. Don't worry, he suspects nothing. He is too busy being a dad lol. She was talking about me. She sent him photos. Nothing too graphic, just enough. Her in that same red lingerie. Her in the car biting her lip. Captioned, "Meet me at noon. Room 9. It wasn't he just cheating, it was mockery." It was premeditated betrayal. She wasn't he just slipping up. She was thriving in the lies. And then I realized I knew Eric. He worked in the same damn building. She had introduced us once at a holiday party. Said he was in accounting. I shook his hand. I remember he looked nervous. Now I know why the rage that hit me that night was different from anything I'd felt before. It wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation. She was parading this in front of me, like I was some blind, clueless fool. I sat there in the dark phone screen glowing, reading everything over and over and wondering how long I'd been nothing but background noise in my own life. I waited until Sunday. Not for any particular reason, just because I didn't want to do it in front of our daughter again. I had her spend the night at my mom's. She kept asking, "Why are you sad, Daddy?" And I couldn't even answer her without my throat closing up. So Sunday night, I sat her down. Same spot. Same table. She was drinking tea like everything was fine. Wearing one of those oversized sweaters she always wore when she wanted to look cozy and innocent. "Tell me about Eric." That's all I said. Her eyes did that flicker thing again. That tiny hesitation before the lie comes out. Who I just stared. "Eric from your office accounting. The one you've been screwing in motel rooms during lunch breaks." Silence. She didn't even bother denying it this time. No gaslighting. No rage. Just a long, dramatic exhale. "And then you've been spying on me." That was her opening. Not "I'm sorry." Not "I can explain." Just another attempt to flip the script. "You went through my phone. My messages. My cloud. Are you serious, Mark? That is stalking. That's actually disturbing." Disturbing. I slammed my fist on the table. First time I'd ever done that. I'm not a violent guy, never have been. But something snapped in me. You have been lying to me for months. Sleeping with 2 guys while I'm raising our kid, paying the mortgage, doing bedtime routines, and cooking you goddamn dinner. And you're mad that I found out. She flinched. Not from fear, from embarrassment. Like I'd caught her shoplifting at Target. I didn't plan for it to happen. She mumbled. "Bullshit. You planned hotel rooms. You planned outfits. You planned texts and time slots. You had spreadsheets of infidelity, Kate." She looked up at me with this hollow expression, like all the masks had finally dropped. "You stopped seeing me? What does that even mean?" "You used to touch me, look at me now. All you do is work and be a dad." I felt invisible. I felt dead. I was floored. Dead, she felt dead. I was the one dragging myself to work, juggling bills, dealing with daycare, doing everything in my power to keep our lives functioning while she was off screwing Eric. During her lunch break, I stood up. "You don't feel dead. You just feel bored. And instead of working on it, you lit our marriage on fire and blamed me for the smoke." She didn't answer, just stared into her tea like it held the answers. That night, I slept in the guest room again. No words. No apologies. No effort from her. I wasn't sure what to do next. But I knew this. The woman I married didn't exist anymore. I wish I could say I had some sort of grand epiphany, that I woke up the next day empowered, free, ready to move on. But the truth is, I felt like a ghost. I was still cooking breakfast for our daughter, still packing school snacks, still driving to work pretending everything was normal. Meanwhile, I was carrying the weight of two affairs, a shattered marriage and the unbearable silence of a wife who showed no remorse. Kate, for her part, acted like it was just a rough patch, like things would eventually cool off. She even asked if we could talk calmly about what we both wanted, as if I was a business partner and not the husband she repeatedly betrayed. Every time I looked at her, I felt like screaming, but I didn't. I stayed quiet. Not for her, for me. For my daughter. Because if I lost control, I'd lose everything. And wasn't he letting her take more than she already had? So I started researching divorce attorneys in the area. Quietly from my work laptop or my lunch breaks. It felt surreal, typing in how to file for divorce in my state, like I was ordering takeout. My hands were shaking. I kept thinking about how this would affect my daughter, about how I'd explain this to my mom, my friends, myself. But every time I second-guessed myself, I remembered that hotel key card, that red lingerie, that smirk she gave me when I first brought up Jay. I found a firm with great reviews focused on family law. I booked a consultation for the following week. The paralegal who took my call was professional, calm to calm. I guess for her, this was just another Tuesday. For me, it felt like I was initiating the funeral of everything I'd built for 10 years. I didn't tell Kate. Not yet. I wanted to hear my options first. Understand custody finances. Living arrangements. I needed clarity before I confronted her again. That weekend, we went to a birthday party for a friend's kid. I watched her chat with other moms like she wasn't living a double life. Laughing. Smiling. Telling someone how hard parenting was lately. I almost lost it. But I kept my cool. I had a plan now. My consultation was set for a Tuesday at 11 a.m. I told my job I had a doctor's appointment, which wasn't even that far from the truth. Something inside me was sick. Rotten, maybe, and this was the first step toward cutting the infection out. The law office was clean, professional, and somehow more intimidating than I expected. People were calm, courteous, like they dealt in heartbreak and betrayal every single day. They do. The attorney I met, let's call her Lisa, was sharp. Late 40s, no nonsense. Kind eyes, but steel underneath. I gave her a brief version of what happened. Told her about Jay, about Eric, about the phone, the hotel, the texts. She didn't gasp. She didn't blink. She just nodded and said, "You need to prepare for war." I was taken aback. I asked, "What do you mean?" She said, "A woman who lies that easily, that consistently, with no remorse, isn't going to suddenly play fair just because you want a peaceful divorce. She'll lie about money, about custody, about you." That hit me like a freight train. I always imagined if we divorced, we'd do it civilly for our daughter. Sit down, figure out co-parenting, split assets, and move on. But Lisa looked at me like I was a child. "Does she know you're consulting a lawyer?" "No, keep it that way." Do not confront her again until we're ready to file. If you're serious about leaving, you need to protect yourself. She went over everything: custody laws in our state, how adultery can impact division of assets, not much, sadly, what to document, what not to say in texts, how to gather financial records, when to move out or when not to. She even asked if Kate might try to claim abuse or coercion. At first I said absolutely not. Then I paused, remembered how she used the word emotional abuse when I confronted her, how fast she twisted the story. When I simply asked questions, Lisa nodded again. She is going to try to flip the narrative. Get ready? I walked out of that office, feeling like someone had finally handed me a flashlight in a pitch-black maze. I wasn't tea-free yet, but at least I had a map. When I got home that night, Kate was watching a show phone in hand, texting probably Jay or Eric, or God knows who else. She smiled and said, "You okay? You look tired." I smiled back. Just a long day, because now I was playing my own game. After the meeting with the lawyer, I shifted gears. No more baking. No more confronting. No more reacting. Now I was collecting. Lisa told me to gather evidence quietly, not just of the affairs, but anything that showed patterns of deception, recklessness, or neglect. Things that might matter if custody got messy. I started with backups. Old phones. Email logins. I knew enough about Kate's habits to know she wasn't exactly a cybersecurity genius. And then I found her iPad, the one she barely used, still logged into iCloud, sitting in a drawer in the guest room with 6% battery. I charged it overnight. The next morning I opened it, fully expecting to see nothing useful. I was wrong. The Messages app was synced, and apparently she didn't know that. Deleting a conversation from one device, didn't he always remove it from another? There were entire threads from months ago. Conversations she must VE thought were long gone, and not just with Jay and Eric. There was a third guy, no name this time. Just a number area code from 2 towns over. The thread was short but brutal from late last year. Wish you weren't married, LOL. Same? You're the only one who makes me feel seen. When's the next conference? Winking face next month. I'll tell him I'm training a new rep. I scrolled in disbelief. There was a picture of her in a hotel mirror. Different hotel, different lingerie. Same smirk. 3 men. 3 lives. All while coming home to me and our daughter like nothing happened. But what really broke me was one message from a friend of hers, a woman she has known since college, the kind of person who has been in our house, held our baby, called me a great dad. Kate, if he ever finds out, I'll just cry and say I felt neglected. Works every time, friend. Men are so dumb, lol. I didn't cry. I couldn't I just stared at the screen, feeling my hands go cold. She was strategizing betrayal, practicing emotional blackmail like it was a script, prepping her defense months in advance, not because she felt guilt, but because she wanted to keep getting away with it. That night, she came home and asked if I wanted to watch a movie. I said sure. I sat next to her on the couch with a pit in my stomach, pretending everything was normal, while I stared at a person I now realized was capable of cruelty, masked as charm. But I was almost ready. Once I had the evidence, everything shifted. I moved differently, spoke differently, looked at her differently. Not on purpose, it just started happening. When someone shows you who they really are, you can't unsee it. Every word she said now felt rehearsed. Every smile, every casual love you, just empty. And Kate noticed. About a week after I found the iPad messages, she cornered me in the kitchen one night while I was doing dishes. Our daughter was in bed, the house quiet. "You've been distant lately." I shrugged. "Just tired." "No, it's more than that. You barely talk to me. You're always on your phone or laptop. You're cold." That was rich. I wanted to say cold. "You've been screwing 3 different guys and sending them pictures from the hotels I paid for. And I'm the one being cold." But I didn't see. I played it cool. Like Lisa said, don't tip your hand. I smiled and said it's been a long month. I'm trying to stay focused. She squinted at me. Are you talking to someone? I almost laughed. The irony of her asking me that, after everything I'd uncovered, made me want to break something. But I stayed calm. "No, are you?" She rolled her eyes and walked off, like I was the crazy one. But that was the moment I knew she felt the shift. She didn't know I had already spoken to a lawyer. She didn't know I had messages, photos, dates, names. She didn't know that I had started moving money out of our joint account slowly and legally to avoid getting screwed in the split. She didn't know that I had already toured 2 apartments, talked to a financial advisor, and started building a custody plan. She didn't know that her mask had slipped for the last time, but she knew something was coming. And for the first time in a long time, she was the one with anxiety. About 2 weeks after, Kate started acting like I was a stranger. I made my move. It was a quiet Thursday evening. Our daughter was asleep, and I told Kate I was working late from the home office, which was partially true. I had emails to send, but mostly I was sitting there, staring at the screen, waiting for the right moment. I sent a text to the lawyer confirming our filing date, just a few days away. Then I blocked Jay, Eric, and every other guy she'd been texting on my burner phone. I saved screenshots and backed them up to a secure drive. I finally printed out all the evidence. Lisa had advised me to keep texts, photos, receipts, credit card statements. The next day, I told Kate I needed to talk. She looked tired but skeptical, like she'd heard this before. I handed her the printed folder. Her face went from disbelief to shock to anger, and finally cold calculation. "You think this proves anything? I can explain everything." I laughed because by now, her explanations were just lies with lipstick. "You're finished, Kate. This isn't about blame anymore. It's about what's best for our daughter and for me to get out with what little dignity I have left." She looked at me like I was a fool, like I was the joke. "You'll regret this. I own this house, these assets. Without me, you're nothing." I shook my head. "I don't need anything from you, except to be left the hell alone." Her eyes narrowed, and then for the first time, she broke down, not into tears, but into rage so fierce it scared me. "You think you can just walk away after everything I've done for this family? You're the selfish one." I left the room before I said something I'd regret. That night she didn't come to bed. Once the divorce papers were filed, the real fight started. It wasn't just about splitting assets or custody anymore. It was a battle for my sanity. Kate turned on the waterworks full force. Every conversation became a test. "How could you do this to me after all I sacrificed?" She pulled out every card: tears, anger, guilt trips, and outright manipulation. The custody battles were brutal. She painted me as an absent, uncaring father, ignoring the fact that I was the one doing the school runs, doctor visits, and bedtime stories. Most nights, her lawyer called me emotionally distant and unfit. It stung, but I stayed focused. I documented everything Lisa told me, to photos of time spent with my daughter, calendars with activities, even notes from teachers. The emotional blackmail was the worst part. She threatened to move away with our daughter, or accused me of trying to turn her against me. She tried to trap me in endless conversations, guilt trips, and arguments, hoping I'd crack. But I learned to shut down, to walk away to keep records, to speak only when necessary. It was exhausting. Friends told me to be strong and keep my head up, but the nights I spent alone, wondering if I'd broken my family beyond repair, were the hardest. I realized this wasn't just a legal battle. It was a war for my daughter's future, and for my own peace of mind. After months of back and forth, emotionally draining court dates, and endless paperwork, I finally got some good news. The judge ruled in my favor for shared custody, with primary residence at my place during the week. She is still with Kate on weekends, but I got what I wanted: stability for our daughter during school days, which was my biggest concern. It felt like the first real win in a long time. Kate was furious, of course. She called me every name in the book, accused me of manipulating the system, and even threatened to appeal. But for me, it was a moment of relief. Proof that I wasn't crazy for fighting, that the truth had weight. More than that, it reminded me why I was doing this, not for revenge, but for my daughter's well-being. For her to grow up feeling loved, safe, and with both parents in her life, even if imperfect. It hasn't even been easy. Some days I still wonder if I made the right choice. But every time I see my daughter smile when she wakes up in my house, I know this fight is worth it. Healing after betrayal is a messy, uneven process. No one warns you about the waves of anger, sadness, and numbness that hit you in random order. At first, I blamed myself over and over. I kept replaying every moment, every conversation, asking, what did I miss? Could I have stopped this? Was I ever enough? Therapy helped a lot. Talking to someone who wasn't emotionally invested gave me perspective. I learned that her cheating was her choice, not a reflection of my worth. I started setting boundaries with Kate, with friends, with myself. No more endless texts or emotional drain. I focused on rebuilding a relationship with my daughter that was honest, stable, and full of love. It wasn't instant. I had setbacks. I had nights where I cried alone, wondering if I'd ever trust again. But I also found small joys. Watching my daughter learn to ride her bike, quiet mornings with coffee, reconnecting with old friends I'd lost touch with during the marriage. Most importantly, I began to forgive myself, not for what happened, but for being human and vulnerable enough to love someone who didn't deserve it. If you're reading this because you're going through something similar, know this: your pain is valid. Your feelings matter. And there is light after the darkness. If you've made it this far, thank you for reading my story. It's raw, messy, and deeply personal, but maybe it'll help someone else. Here's what I've learned through all this heartbreak and chaos. Trust your gut. If something feels off, don't ignore it. Denial only prolongs the pain. Don't be afraid to seek help. Therapy saved me from drowning in my own thoughts. Friends help me stay sane. You don't have to do this alone. Document everything if you suspect infidelity or abuse. It's painful but necessary, especially if kids or legal battles are involved. Set boundaries and protect your mental health. This is not the time to be a doormat. You deserve respect and honesty. You can still love and be loved again. Betrayal doesn't have to define your future. Remember your worth, no matter what anyone tells you. You deserve loyalty, kindness, and truth. I want you sugar-coated. The road to healing is long and lonely at times. But if you take it one step at a time, there is hope. To anyone dealing with cheating partners, manipulative lies, or shattered trust, you're stronger than you think. And one day you will look back and realize that surviving this made you whole again. Thanks for listening to my story. Stay strong